Hey, we're loading up now. We're loading up, and the recording has started. It's a new style. It's a new thing. It's a new way of doing things. Raf is out on the road, but we can still get the product to your homes. And
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I'm here live with, as you can see, Coach Xavier Miller. Xavier, I'm gonna call you Xavier because that's what comes natural to me.
No
Coach,
problem.
uh, yeah, man. Good to have you back on the Raphael Dawkins Combat Radio Show. How are you today?
I'm good, Rafi, man. As I said to you before, man, anytime with you, no problem.
Hey,
I'm very
hey.
particular who I do interviews with, but with you, anytime, Raf.
That is totally appreciated. And I don't know if you know the channel. I'm kind of selective as well. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm kind of selective as well. So it's much appreciated that you would spend some time to come over to the combat show. Um, the pandemic. How's it been for you? It's been kind of crazy. We're not going to talk long about it, but just give me a minute. Just give me a minute, 60 seconds on the pandemic and how you're dealing with it. Because you've
I,
got you've got a family, you've got a family at home, and you're flying out and
yeah, yeah, it's not easy.
mm,
It's not something that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. And I think probably the alarming thing was the difference between how the government has dealt with the pandemic in Portugal and then back in the UK. Because obviously, because I'm flying back and forth, I'm seeing it firsthand. And
yeah,
I have to honestly say the numbers reflect the real. Um, the number of number of death rate. The death rate over here is very very low in comparison to the UK. I think at one
you're in
point
you're in Portugal at the moment. Just to clarify
yeah,
it to people,
yeah, I would say Portugal at one point had the lowest in Europe, lowest death rate,
right? Yeah,
or cases, should I say? But listen, every country, every government deals with things in different ways. Every country, every government has different agendas. But yeah, over here, they've taken it very seriously. I mean, a lot of times you go out on the road, go for a walk, it's like a ghost town. When I go
wow,
back to the UK, it looks almost normal. So
wow,
yeah,
wow. And there is a correlation between how seriously people are taking it over there and how not seriously perhaps people are taking it over here. There's a correlation. There's the seriousness, the death rate appears to be related to how serious people are taking it, basically.
I think so. I mean, even with the police over here, you can't just drive and go wherever you feel. If you come
Right.
out of your town, your borough, then you're being asked where you're going, and then told to
Yeah.
go back.
Ha.
But they might be doing that now in the UK. But what I'm saying is, from early, they were
Yeah.
doing that over here. So
They ain't doing it, bro. They ain't doing it over here, bro. Trust me. I mean, they might pick up a one and two man, but that's about it. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
I mean, they've closed the
they've got borders set up here. You go. They've got their landmarks.
checkpoints.
So
They got checkpoint Charlies
they've
over
got
there. They got
checkpoints,
checkpoints.
man. Mhm. Mhm.
Checkpoint Charlie. Wow.
Mhm.
Well, I think if people want to live, then it's clear and obvious. I'm not going to dwell on it, but it's clear and obvious what people need to do. Take the damn thing seriously. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that because the conspiracy theorists are going to be in here. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist,
Well,
Rafi, and all that foolishness.
like I said, the same with anything. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
I would say if you feel that way and that strongly about it, then at some point next year, you can go to Hyde Park and go and stand in the box and go and preach. You deal
Yeah.
with it how you want to deal with it. But me, it's like if you've got a problem with something, I want to see what you're gonna do the next time
Hmm.
there is a problem. You're gonna stand up for a cause. That to me. Then you're not just talking, you're doing something, you're actively doing something. But if you're gonna sit and just
Right.
complain, oh, this is not open, that's not open, what are it's happened now. What have you done to prepare for next time? We had that first wave, so what did you do back then to prepare for what's happening right now?
Right.
It's,
Right. Of course. Yeah.
you got options like sitting around complaining. It's never going to do anything, is it? It's not going to achieve nothing.
For
You know.
real. For real. Totally, 100%. But we've been blessed. We're alive, and so and boom. I think they're talking about what? I think they're talking about 1,000 people are going to be allowed into the Joshua versus Pulev fight.
And it's good. It's good news because it shows there's some progress. Progression is always
Mm,
good, and
mm.
taking their time, getting a feel of how things are going to go, and then maybe next year, the numbers will increase. So that's all we
Yeah,
need.
looking. Yeah,
And
looking for.
honestly, shout out to all the promoters, boxing promoters that actually have managed to put on shows this year because without live gates, obviously that's a big chunk of the money
Yeah.
gone.
Mm,
But they're still doing what they need to do, and it's helped keep boxing alive. I just wish that there had been some people to do the same for the amateurs, because a
yeah.
lot of amateur shows are not even full. Like most of them, I mean, most amateur shows I go to, if you get 20, 30 people in there, you're lucky. So really, to me, with all the money that they've been collecting over the last few or over years, it should have been enough for them to still have amateur shows running. They didn't have to have crowds in there. They could have just had
Mm,
the judges. They didn't need security, just need the ambulance, and they could have done what they needed to do. People could have got
yeah.
tested. They could have found a way to do it. I think sometimes I wonder where all this money goes with
Hmm,
amateur boxing. Sometimes I
hmm.
wonder because bear in mind, I had an amateur boxing gym. Well, still do, but I don't run it anymore since
Mm.
2013. And throughout my whole time uh, coaching as an amateur, I never made a penny. It was all
Wow.
voluntary, and I wasn't just a coach at a club. I was actually dealing with the setting up and the running of a club, so I knew what we had to do to get money to keep it functioning. And
Right.
all the coaches that I had in there, they're volunteers, mentors, they're volunteering. So someone tell me, what did you guys do with all that money where you couldn't have shows this year?
Hmm, hmm. And the government, they gave out packages, stimulus packages or whatever, to various different sports. And
No
if
boxes.
I recall correctly, I don't think boxing got a penny.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean. It's to me,
Mm,
it's wrong. Um, and I'm actually trying to find some funding for my gym at the moment, but most of the applications that I tap into, either saying a deadline's gone or it's not open at the moment. So we're struggling too. Everyone's in the same boat, so there's no need for anybody like one person to complain. We're all having to deal with it, and
yeah.
I say the same to amateur boxing, pro boxers. There's things that you need to work on. I suggest you use this time wisely, and when you come back to the gym, you should be an improved fighter. Like I said, I didn't have my coach for very long, but I remember what he showed me. I'd go away and go and study. I'd go away and go and train. Well, that's what boxers should be doing. Go and
Yeah.
train. So when boxing does come back, you're not sitting there complaining, well, I haven't had a gym to go to. You can
Mm,
study at home. You can go to the park and train. Gyms are now back open again. I'm hearing yesterday they reopened. So, like I said, everybody's going to be in the same boat when we come back. So there's no need for one particular body or group to complain. We're all in the same boat.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So boxers have to, they have to be proactive and
That's the
keep
key.
themselves
Proactive.
keep themselves in shape. But the key term there is proactive. Got to be proactive.
Hmm.
Okay, so now let's move on. Let's move on to current. Let's get to current events. Um, we're gonna have to talk about it. We're gonna have to talk about it. Daniel Triple D versus Joe Joyce. Just give me your general observations on that whole situation.
I like the fight. Um, I like when the fight was announced. I thought it was the perfect fight for Joe Joyce and for Dubois. Joyce is at that age now where he needs to step up and move forward. He needed an opponent to do that, and Dubois, needed to step up in quality or position, which was Joe Joyce. So for me, the fight was a 50-50 fight, and I thought it was a great matchup. What it was everyone from Team White. We all, whenever the boxing's on, we all go to the bar on at the see where we're staying, and we all watched the fight live. We were impressed with Joe Joyce with his jab. I thought at times in some of the rounds, I thought Dubois was the more aggressive fighter and sometimes landed the more eye-catching punches. But Joe Joyce was consistent. consistent with that jab. You know, he didn't get away from the game plan, and I wasn't disappointed in the tactics of Dubois because he hadn't boxed anybody up at that level, so we didn't know what he was going to look like. You know, it's okay doing certain things against certain opposition, then when you get with better oppositions, certain things don't work. You know, things look different. It's a different picture in front of you. So I wasn't disappointed in that. The only thing I was disappointed in is when he went down to take a knee, I thought he was going to get up and just have in his mind that this fight's not going to go on much longer. Let me just go out swinging. I make reference to Gary Mason, rest in peace. You know, when his eye was completely shut against Lennox Lewis, he knew he didn't have more than another round in him, and he just went for broke. I like to see that in fighters. Same with Kevin Kelly against Derek Smoke Gainer years ago. I think it's a 90 fight. Kevin
Yeah.
Kelly's eye was completely shut. He managed to knock Gainer down a couple of times. He got knocked down himself, but then I think around 7th, 8th round, you know, he caught Gainer coming in, and he knocked out Gainer with his eye completely shut. You know, Arturo Gatti I think his name was Rodriguez, where both his eyes were closing, and you know, his corner did a really good job with the eyes, but he turned the fight around maybe in about 5-6 rounds and knocked his guy out. I just would have liked to see that, you know, even if the corner had told him, we're going to give you one more round, and if he'd gone out swinging and then the referee said, listen, you can't see, son, I'm going to stop the fight, or the corner said, you had to go, it's all over. I would have preferred that, but I think to stay down and be counted out, only he knows how he felt, and obviously we don't want anybody to lose their sight. But you know, boxing is boxing, and you're expected, you know, to go out on your shield. Like I say, I just would have preferred for him just to have a real go. And if he'd done that, you couldn't have said anything. He would have lost. I mean, he's lost to a good fighter in Joe Joyce. I mean, he's a silver medalist. You know, he's not going to be easy for anybody. Can take a shot. Big guy, slow but methodical. You know, obviously not on the level, but you remind me a bit of George Foreman. You know, just keep going, same kind of pace, but just keeps chopping away. But you know, that was the only disappointment. But the actual fight itself, again, for this year, we've had so many 50-50 fights. And again, that was another good one. And you see, when you do get 50-50 fights, you get good fights. And that's what we've had for the whole year. So yeah, that's a summary really of what I saw.
This thing, there's a big contention. There's a big contention going on right about now about should he have got up? Because I agree with you, when he went down, when he took the knee, I thought that he was going to be getting back up, but he didn't. And only he knows how he would have felt, because for all we know, he could have been feeling that way for 2 rounds.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? He could have been on the brink for rounds before that.
Yes, he could have. So yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, he's the one that's in there. You know, he's got, you know, Joyce is popping him all day long, not finding it hard to find him at all. You know, that's how I would have liked him to go out, because I like Dubois. You know, we've got young talent coming through the UK, and we want to see them do well. Well, hopefully he'll go on to do great things. I just hope that when he gets in that position again, you know, he'll know what it means, and you know, he'll try and find something, because that's what we want from our fighters. You know, like I say, boxing, it doesn't always go your way, and sometimes you have to find something. You know, whether that's during that fight or getting a rematch. You know, we want our boxers to get in there and show us something, and that's the only thing that was missing. But listen, he took the risk to go in with a fighter of that experience in the first place, so for that he gets credit.
For that he gets credit. Okay, so what is the role of the coach in that situation?
I thought the coaches did quite well this year. I mean, they didn't just stop the fight. They let him go out and, you know, have another round to see it, so he could try and show them something. But from what I was hearing, I thought they did a good job. I mean, it's so convenient to always look at the corner. This is what everyone does the first thing that goes wrong. You know, let's look at the corner. you know, they sent their man out. He wasn't doing things that he would usually do. Like, I mean, he's had amateur experience. I mean, he knows how to parry a jab. But like I say, on the day, easier said than done. Joyce might have a different kind of jab that she couldn't figure out the timing of it, or he just hadn't
Yeah.
seen anything like that before, which means that he's lacking maybe a little bit more, little bit of experience. Can't knock him for that. But I thought the corner did. I thought they did their job. I thought they did the job.
Okay, okay, that's good. That's good to hear. That's why we have you on, because boom. That's why we have people like you on, who are in the game, at the
Mhm.
cold face, as they say, at the cold face. Um, okay, so you now, as speaking as a coach, your fighter, because there's certain things that Daniel Dubois didn't do. Um, his head movement was not appropriate. We didn't see a parry.
Mhm.
Joe Joyce, my perspective is, now Daniel Dubois is now, you have to term him as a small man in boxing. When you got the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys, a 6 foot guy is now a small man. So
Yep, indeed.
real so now to me, you have to look at a 6'4" guy as a small man, and a 6'4" guy going up against a 6, 7, 8, 9 guy. They have to understand small man style, what a small man has to do
Mhm.
when they're going against a tall man. Just like
Yeah.
Mike Tyson understood what a small man had to
Mhm.
do back in his day.
Yeah.
And there's certain
Yeah. I
things a
mean.
small man has to do, and the parry is one of them. Slipping the jab
Mhm.
is essential,
Essential. Yeah.
absolutely essential. And slipping the jab then enables you to close the distance. When you're getting close, you got to have that barrage.
Mhm. I thought. I
Parry,
thought. I thought the ball looked better when he was going forward. To me, when he was being aggressive, he was kind of taking Joe Joyce's jab away. But when he was on the
yeah,
outside, he wasn't having any joy. So I think when he was being aggressive in spots, he was quite good. But then as soon as he's back on the outside, it was only one man was in control. So that really was the pattern of the fight, and maybe that's the adjustment they need to make. To say, I can't beat this guy on the outside. As you say, with a smaller man, you've got to find a way to get inside and work. But you see, I'm noticing this with a lot of fighters. Like the comparisons between. I mean, guys don't like to compare errors. I actually do because in my mind, we're supposed to be going forward and evolving. The fighters of today should be better than the fighters of yesteryear. As
yes,
far as I'm concerned, because there's more available to them. But that's not the case. The guys like the heavyweights, like from the 90s, like Riddick Bowe in particular, was very good inside and very good outside. So you could give him that instruction and say to him, right, we're not having no jaw on the outside, let's go on the inside, or vice versa, because he had that skill set. Um, a lot of guys are really good mid range, but then they're not really good close up. And people always get these two, they get them confused. They're two completely different things, being a mid range fighter and being a close fighter. They're different. There's a big difference between being a mid range fighter and being a fighter on the outside. They're different. I would have liked to see these guys, display this kind of skill set because you never know when you're going to need it. And again, it's like a guy who normally goes about his business boxing on the outside, but then, in a particular fight, he has to get physical. But, if you haven't practiced that, then it's a problem. One of the boxers in my gym, Kay Prosper, he's a very good fighter on the outside. But the guy that he was boxing when he was defending his title was very, very tall. And I said to him, it's not you can't beat him outside, but you'll be better off doing this. So I showed him how to do it. So I sent him videos of certain fights of how guys were getting inside, the kind of things they were doing when they're getting in there. And then with the sparring, I got two guys to come in, and he had to fight that way. The sparring was tailored to the fight. He wasn't allowed to come in and spar the way he normally would spar. He had to spar completely different. Again, he didn't know how to do it before, but now that's another bow to string. Now he knows that I can do that. And I think that's what I would have liked to see, especially with Dubois, was it wasn't working outside, get physical with the guy. At the same time, I know people are going to say, well, but Joyce is a bigger guy. Doesn't mean you can't get physical. It doesn't mean you can't close the range and try and be more effective there because you've got to be doing something else because what you're doing is not working. So, yeah, that's why I still keep To be honest with you, most of my time I spend watching. I watch 80s and 90s boxing. Like, I don't watch boxing. I don't watch a lot of today's box. I do watch boxing today, but not as
Yeah.
much as I do with the 80s and 90s. Because that's what I study, and that's
Hmm.
because I still haven't found fighters today as good as those guys, and especially the heavyweights. I think the heavyweights back then, you know, even Tony Tubbs, all these guys, they were Pink and Thomas. Their fundamentals were really really good.
Now you're
Um,
talking. Now you're talking.
yeah, that's why I watch those guys so I can try and help and improve with the guys that I work with. I do have a heavyweight. He's only had 3 amateur bouts, but again, he's been around me long enough and been around the gym long enough where he's technically very very good. He doesn't have the experience, but his fundamentals are really good. So he just needs to go out to different camps and go and learn his game and needs to go on the road. But again, it's years and years and years of repetition and teaching. It takes time, and a lot of guys they don't like boxers don't like to work on the stuff that they need to work on. They like to just come in and do what they want to do. Um,
Hmm.
then you can't evolve, you can't get better.
Hmm.
You can't. It's like being a football player. You might be brilliant with your right foot, but you never know when you need your left. If you don't practice your left foot all the time, then you're not going to get better with your left foot. Doesn't mean you obviously your right foot's your preference, but know how to use your left. That's how I view sports. That you've got to be, especially full-time boxers. To me, you've got no excuse. If you're a full-time boxer in the gym every day, if you're not learning something, then something's not right. You've got to evolve. You have to, because everybody else is watching you and they're getting better. The more
One.
established you are, the more footage there is out there of you. So you've got to get better. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, inside, mid-range, outside, a boxer has to be proficient in all the ranges,
Yeah.
all the
Yes.
ranges.
Yeah.
And when a
You
coach
can be a,
says,
you can
"Okay,"
you can be a specialist. You can be a specialist in one area, but you've got to be able to do the others. You've got to.
and when a coach says, "Okay, we're going mid-range now. Try the mid-range." He needs
Mm.
to know the boxer needs to know what to do at mid-range. Long range. Let's try long range. Try long range,
Hmm.
then go mid-range, then close the distance, go in tight. Um, a boxer needs to know all of those ranges. Where is the coach's responsibility in all of that?
A lot of the times, it depends on the boxer. Some boxers just cannot be taught. They're
Ha!
stuck in their ways, and they don't want to do anything different. Some boxers feel that they're so good at what they do, they don't need to learn anything different.
And we're not
You know,
talking
they
about Daniel Dubois here specifically.
no,
We're
general.
talking about boxers. Yeah,
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, and that's the problem because when you set out a game plan, and obviously a team, they like to have plan A, B, C, and D, or A, B, C.
Yeah.
It can be broken down as simple as that. You've got long range, mid range, and in close. That can be your game plan. If you need to
Hmm.
switch up, say we need to go to this, so that's your game plan. But if you
Yeah.
don't practice those things, then when you get in the ring, then you look a little bit lost. And that's one thing about being in the ring. It's a very very lonely place, and when you don't know what to do, that must be the worst feeling in the world. It's like being in the ring, and some boxers actually take on fights late notice, and they know they could beat that guy if they were fitter, but they know they weren't fit enough. And it's a horrible feeling to know. You know what? If I was fit, I could do this, but I can't because I'm not fit. So it's the same as in a technical aspect. You
Mm.
don't want to get in there and not have worked on certain things, or else
Hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble now. So what do you do? What do you do when you've got a fighter and there are clearly areas that he needs to work on, and somewhere along the line he will be fighting that same guy who beat him again.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's being able to adapt and adjust. I mean, to me, uh, once two guys have boxed each other before, there's something familiar there. And to me, both teams would obviously progress and look to move forward, work on things that they should have been doing in the fight, and obviously things that were successful, build on that. But that's just in general. But again, that depends on the team. I personally like being around 2 to 3 coaches because everybody brings something different to the table, and you can also sit down and go over footage, and one coach might see something, another coach will see something else, and you come together and say, right, this is what we should do. I like teams. I've always been involved in a team. At my gym, I've got a lot of coaches. Um, with the pro side of it, it's two guys in particular, which is me and Nick, who run the gym. We do everything together. We train with our fighters together. We study, the opponents together. I like working in a team environment, and then you've got your strength and conditioning coaches on top of that. I like them to be involved in like the tactical side of things, because then when they're doing what they need to do, they know the areas that they need to work on, because that's where the box needs to improve. So I like being involved in a team, and then obviously everyone's in unison. Um, but that takes time to build. In my gym, obviously I've been around the same people for years. So but when you actually get involved in different fighters, or you get a new fighter coming on board, everyone they have to buy into to your ethos. That
Yeah.
takes time. It could take one fight, it could take two fights. Depending on the
Mm.
fighter, depending on the coach and the boxer relationship. So it takes time.
Takes time to develop all of that stuff. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about fighters. We talked about fighter development. Talked about the fighter's responsibility. Um, but I want to go back just a little bit, because I agree with you about the fighters of the 80s and the 90s. We're talking about the Lennox Lewises, obviously. To me, one of the best in the modern era, if not the best heavyweight in the modern era, personally. And we go back forward. We go further back. We go back to the jab of Joe Louis. We go back to the jab of Sonny Liston.
Sonny
Um,
Liston, yeah, great fighter.
yeah, go back to the job of Sonny Liston. And we're talking about things don't always progress. Sometimes they regress. Even intelligence. We
Hmm.
don't know how they did the pyramids. We don't know how they built the pyramids. So intellect has does not always progress. Sometimes it regress. There's lost civilization,
Hmm.
lost intelligence, and perhaps there's a lost civilization in heavyweight boxing.
Hmm.
Is
I
there a
think
lost
so.
civilization in heavyweight boxing?
I think for a while, um, there was, but now I think with Dillian and Tyson Fury, Wilder, obviously Povetkin's in the mix now again. Um, it's a really exciting division. Like Joe Joyce again the other day, then you had Dubois. I mean, it hasn't been this good for a long time. You put these guys against each other, you're going to get good fights, and this is what we wanted. And we had some really classic fights in the 80s and 90s. And it looks like these guys have brought that back. So it looks like now we're moving forward. For while the Klitschko's were dominating, it looked like especially the American fighters, it looked like they were more interested in different sports. It didn't look like they were that interested in boxing anymore. Um, there's almost like a drought. I couldn't understand what's going on. Like, where are these good guys gone? But then, like I said, these guys have brought it back. And it's great stuff. Like Joshua's there, like I say, Dillian's there, Fury's there, Wilder's there, Joe Joyce is there. And you got the Parkers. It's so good, man. It's like the fights are good. Usyk's coming up now as well. It's making it more, which is interesting. So yeah, I like what's happening now currently with especially the heavyweight division and the welterweights.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the lost civilization you're finding the
We're
scriptures. You're
we're
finding
finding
the
it.
the the the, car, the writings in the caves. They're coming back.
It's coming back definitely.
It's coming back. It's coming back 100%. I mean, yeah, yeah, and it is a very exciting time in boxing. We're particularly, like you said, in the heavyweight, and the UK has an embarrassment of riches.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, in England they're very fortunate in comparison to some countries. I mean, they do have the backing. The GB squad. A lot of countries don't have the facilities that we have, um, which in my mind means that we should be sometimes doing more. I think we're still a step behind the likes of, well, when we had Shakur and those guys in the Olympics, just outstanding. There still seem to be a level or two, that we need to move up to, but I think we're closing that gap. We've had a lot of, we're competing more. I mean, we've got a lot of world champions in the UK.
Yeah.
Before it looked like the US was dominating, but now the UK is starting to come through, or has been for the last few years, and it's great. I mean, the two guys with the title at the moment, they're in the UK. Dillian is knocking on the door now. Once we get this rematch out of the way, he's done more than enough to deserve a title shot. But for me, nothing happens before its time, and when he does get his time, I think he's gonna grab it with both hands, and I'm looking forward to it. Great, great fighter, Dillian. The right attitude, and we want to see him in a world title fight. Who doesn't?
Born warrior.
Well, yeah, he is. That he is. That
Yeah,
he is.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about Dillian before we close this thing down.
Mhm.
How is he? How's he doing? How's he? What's his mindset? How's his spirit? I mean, he seems very ebullient. I've seen him. I've seen him in some videos. He seems very, very ebullient. He don't seem down mentally. He don't seem phased.
Mhm.
He ain't. He ain't.
Well,
Some people are talking about if you take a loss, oh, you get, it's mentally destroying and all this nonsense, malarkey.
mm,
It can be, I suppose, but it depends on the individual's mindset, their mental makeup, their mental, their warrior. How much warrior do you have in you?
what I've noticed with Dillian, he's a very positive person, man. He likes to look. He likes to take the good. Not focus too much on the bad. Everything for him, every fight he has is a learning experience. He's he says he hasn't had much amateur experience, so he fights these good guys. So he gets the experience that way. And he honestly, he's got the right attitude. I mean, as a coach, he's the fighter that you want. He works hard in the gym. You don't have to push him. He wants to work hard. He wants to learn. He wants to be involved. He wants to develop, get better. So yeah, so he's doing really really well. Um, it's just
And
it's just
looking forward to the rematch.
yeah. I was just about to say that his focus is solely on getting the victory. He's working, getting better, and like I said, we've got a very good camp. We've got a very good team. They get on very very well, and we're around each other every single day. Twice a day, and we just work. And I've got a couple of my fighters are coming back out again for this camp, and yeah, we're just getting better, and we're gelling and bonding, and obviously the more time we spend with the team and with the fighter, the greater the relationship is, and that's what's happening now. So we're all in a very very good place. We just can't wait to get out. We were so looking forward to the fight a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it didn't happen. Because of obviously Povetkin had to pull out, but Dillian was ready to go, ready to go. You would have seen something special. He looked really really good, and I just disappointed we didn't get out. But you know what? Listen, nothing happens before its time. There's a reason. So we got a new date. It looks like 30th of January at
What's
the
the date?
moment. I
What
think it's
what's
30th
what's
of
the date?
January. I think it's
30th of
30th of
January.
January.
So
Yeah,
man's
I
got a
think it's
date.
hmm,
Man's got a date. I've seen him. He looks ebullient. You can't fake that. He's ready to go. He wants to tear Ish up.
hmm.
And then we've got another guy back on top. So now we got Anthony Joshua, unified champion. We've got Tyson Fury, WBC, lineal, and then Dillian will rise back up to third, all being well, if it's
Yeah,
written.
and when he does that, he'll beat all of them. He'll beat them all.
Blow, bow,
He'll beat them all.
wow,
He'll beat them all.
wow,
So
confidence. Oh my
no,
gosh.
of course, of course. We've got business to deal with. Povetkin is as me and you talked before. We did an interview before, and I did say to me it would be Dillian's toughest fight of his career. That was what I was thinking going into that fight. So everybody
Me
took
too.
that fight very seriously. Everybody took that fight very seriously. Dillian trained really, 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 really hard, and that's why he performed like that up until obviously that punch. Most guys don't win every round against Povetkin. They don't. They drop rounds against him. Dillian was winning every round. and then dropped him twice as well. So the quality is there. Obviously, we need to go and finish the job, and that's what we're focusing on.
Wow. Oh my OMG. I am excited with that last thing you said. When he comes back, he beats everybody. That
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
that's powerful. That's
Mm.
powerful. That is powerful. And you know, we finished on a high there. That's food for thought for all of those guys out there. That is serious food for thought. Xavier Miller. I have to say, extend my appreciation that you would take time out of your day to spend it over here
Anytime.
with Raphael Dawkins Combat Radio.
Yeah, anytime.
Your final words, my friend.
Yeah. Just listen. Just everyone stay safe, and it looks like we're going to get crowds back, so that's a reason to smile. I saw quite a lot of people in the crowd at Tank's fight, the Santa Cruz, and then
Yeah,
there's going to be quite a large number for the Spence v Garcia. I'm
that's
hearing,
right.
I don't know if it's right, is it 14,000 something, something like
Wow, I
that,
didn't know. I
which
didn't
is
know that. Yeah.
yeah, which is like I said, look, we're making progress, so yeah, just hopefully boxing eventually will get back to where it should be. But for now, fighters are still managing to get out. Most fighters, anyway. And
Hmm.
we're solely focused on perfecting. I've got respect for all fighters, and I don't look at age. I look at experience. And he's a very very experienced guy, and not to be underestimated. Don't ever underestimate anybody because of their age. Like I said, these guys sometimes they have long
Age ain't
lives.
nothing but a number. Xavier, age ain't nothing but a number.
Yeah, and these older guys, you can't buy experience, and they seem to always have one last dance. Like Mosley when he beat Margarito, everyone thought he's done, he's finished. Come back and stopped him. It's just, that's one thing. If you could, as a fighter, you want to have experience. Over anything else, you want that experience. You wanted to be able to have been there and done it. And yeah, and this, you can see Povetkin. He had a plan, and respect to him, got the victory. But yeah, we'll get back. Don't worry, we'll get back.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, Xavier, that's great stuff. Should we even talk about for a couple of seconds about Tyson versus Jones? Should we? Did you watch? Did you watch that event?
Listen, honestly, I'm just happy that these guys have made money because I'm hearing that the pay-per-view numbers are crazy. I mean,
I've heard that too.
why would you be why be negative about it? And clearly, the two of them, they weren't trying to knock each other over. It just looked like a glorified sparring match. And as long as none of them got hurt, which they didn't, they made their money. I'm so happy for both of them. Honestly, I'm happy for them. And again, I'm stuck in the 90s with music and with boxing, and
Same.
those guys were from that era, and they brought their people out and brought some interest into the sport again, which is it's listen, we need it. The sport needs it. Boxing is not as big as what people think. American football's bigger. In America, you got baseball's big. Football, boxing is not as big as what people think, and so we need all these avenues. We need to keep building and keep growing. The sport needs to keep growing. So I think it was good. I think it was good. I didn't
It
stay up for
wasn't
it though.
standing. Say that again.
I didn't stay up. The last time I stayed up for a fight was Mayweather v Pacquiao. I said that I wouldn't stay up for a fight again because what it does is because I'm working with boxers all the time, it messes up my clock. If I stay up all
Yeah.
night until 5 o'clock in the morning, watch a fight, it finishes at 6:30, then I've got to
Yeah.
sleep after that. There's no point. So I don't
Totally.
ever stay up for fights. Or unless
To-
if it's a fight I really want to see, I might go to sleep early and then wake up at 5.
I
But yeah,
totally hear you. I totally hear you because I stayed up and it messes up my body clock. I said I wouldn't do it anymore, but I ended up staying up anyway. Xavier Miller, it's a pleasure
can I
having you. Give shout
shout
out
out to my
to all
sponsors?
of your sponsors. Shout out to your sponsors.
Yeah, well, firstly, just shout out to everybody, everybody and anybody associated with IQ Boxing. My main sponsor, Tiger Bay, along with Ealing Boards and Timber. Bravos is my boxing glove company. They've been amazing, and shout out to KMT who provide me with hats and jumpers and so on and so forth. So and obviously these guys they always help out my boxers when they're boxing, with tickets or training camp costs, whatever. So big shout out to all of them. And yeah, thanks for your time, Rafi, as always.
Xavier Miller, it's been a pleasure having you. Forward, onwards, and forwards with the Dillian camp. I hear what I like. I like the feeling. You got me pumped. I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna have a late Christmas present. You promised us a late Christmas present at the end of January. And salute to you, the whole of your team, everything you do. And we're gonna talk again real soon. That's Xavier Miller, Raphael Dawkins, Combat Radio, and we are out. Blessed.
Take care. Take care.
Thank you, my friend.